Joining me now, independent Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. So, Senator, what do you make of this deal?
Look, this is a very, very modest proposal. It will prevent a disastrous government shutdown. On the other hand, it goes nowhere close to addressing the enormous crises facing this country. We're not dealing with extending unemployment benefits. We're not putting the money we need into rebuilding our infrastructure, creating millions of jobs, investing in energy efficiency, investing in early childhood education. What I am personally appreciative of is that we have had to take on every Republican, some Democrats, and the president who has wanted to cut Social Security, Medicare, and we have prevented that. So
yeah, I think it seems to me this one takeaway from this budget deal is that ship has sailed. I mean, if there was a window, there's a period of time in which some kind of cuts to Social Security, Medicare could really happen. I think the window's closed on that. Tonight's deal seems definitive in that respect.
Well, I think you're right, Chris, but don't underestimate the effort that took place. We have to rally the American people against a huge array of special interest, you know, the Koch brothers and Pete Peterson and every Republican, and to make the point that Social Security is not going broke. It is enormously important for 50+ million Americans. Now, having said that, on the other hand, what we did not do in this agreement very clearly is address the absurdity that 1 out of 4 corporations in this country, including very profitable corporations, in a given year pays nothing in federal taxes. The huge loopholes that exist by companies putting their money in the Cayman Islands and in other tax havens. We're losing about $100 billion a year. That issue wasn't addressed at all.
The most outrageous part of this deal to me seems the omission of extension for unemployment benefits. Long-term unemployed. There was a lot of talk going into this that there was a demand from the Democratic side that be included in any deal. It is not in a deal, and that seems to me the signal that those people are screwed. Basically, the Republicans are telling them, you're out of luck. The president today, White House issuing a supportive statement saying the bipartisan budget agreement is a good first step and sort of praising the fact that we won't have the cycle of short-sighted, crisis-driven decision-making. White House still pressing for extension of long-term unemployment, but is that dead on arrival now?
I don't think it's dead on arrival. It's the fight that we have to face. We're looking at 1.3 million workers who face financial disaster if that unemployment comp extension, long-term unemployment comp extension is not passed. So this is an issue that clearly we have got to address. But again, the other concern is that there are so many important issues facing our country. Unemployment is much too high. We need to invest in jobs. We have none of that in this legislation. How
do we get the gravity, the center of gravity to move in the opposite direction? We showed that chart at the top. We've shown how we are now, I mean, what's crazy about this, sequester was this essentially number plucked from the air to impose very intense austerity at a time when budget deficits are running as 10% of GDP. They are now much, much lower. We're seeing the largest reduction in the deficit in 50 years. We're seeing that the labor market still lags behind, and yet we are not seeing a reverse in people's thinking in Washington about what we need from this budget.
Well, that's because you have very powerful special interest, a united Republican Party who says, look, we don't care that real unemployment is 13%, not an issue. We don't care, in fact, that we've reduced the deficit by 50% over the last 4 years. We don't care that primary health care that in this country is completely neglected, or that so many of our kids have an adequate early childhood. We don't want to invest in that. Our job, and here's the good news, is on all of these issues, do you ask the wealthy and large corporations to pay more in taxes? The American people are saying yes. Do you invest in creating millions of jobs by rebuilding our infrastructure? The American people say yes. So I think on issue after issue, we have the American people on our side. They don't want to see cuts in Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Our job is to rally the American people and put the Republicans in a position where they have got to go along with us.
You know, often it seems to me the basic mechanisms of sort of democratic accountability and the transference of the majority opinion, particularly the opinions of working people, into policy in Washington is broken. The one place where it has succeeded in the last 3 or 4 years is the fact that cuts to Social Security and Medicare are overwhelmingly unpopular, and a very relatively small clique of people obsessed with making those happen we're unable to. So that's a victory for American democracy, aside from a substantive policy victory, and a victory for you, Senator Sanders.
Chris, you don't know within the last year or two how close we came to losing that fight. But you're right. The American people understand you don't give tax breaks to billionaires and then cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
Senator Bernie Sanders, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, an epic battle is brewing in Texas.